Hello there, this is Brian Collins from Become a Writer Today. And in this short video post, I want to explain to you the 7 habits of highly successful writers. So, habit number 1 is to have an orderly daily routine that pays. So the writer George Flaubert said that an orderly routine is all that writers need to create. And he said, be regularly and orderly in your life so that you may be violent and original in your work. And what you simply need to do is to consider when you're going to write each day and then try and stick to that time. The second habit to cultivate is to write every day. Now, I'd like you to consider Anthony Trollope. He was a 19th century English author who produced an astonishing 47 novels during his career, 24 of which he wrote while he was working in the post office. And if he finished a novel while he was in the middle of his writing session, he would simply put down the novel, pick up a blank piece of paper and start writing a new one. The third writing habit to cultivate is to leave yourself subtle writing prompts. So, the American novelist Henry Miller was a big believer in stopping before he ran out of ideas. And he said, I don't believe in draining the reservoir, do you see? I believe in getting up from the typewriter and away from it while I still have things to say. So perhaps you should consider stopping while you still have things to say. Habit number 4 is to embrace research. Now, for a long time, I struggled with the idea that research was an important part of the writing process, but now I know better. And what I'd like you to think about is of the contemporary non-fiction author, Robert Greene. He spends hundreds of hours researching his books like Mastery and the 48 Laws of Power, and he typically reads up to 300 or 400 books before he writes one. And he goes to great lengths to take notes on each book that he reads and then make comparisons between the various books. The 5th habit to cultivate is to work without distraction. So in other words, when you sit down to write, turn off your email, disconnect from the internet. That's something the American novelist Jonathan Franzen took to extreme lengths. He went as far as to superglue the Ethernet connection on his computer when he was writing the award-winning novel Freedom. The next habit to cultivate then is to practice being physically healthy. So a good example of this is the British author Charles Dickens. On a given day when he was writing, he would sometimes walk up to 12 miles around Kent before or after he'd finished his work for the day. Because the simple fact is, if you're not physically healthy, then it's going to be impossible to sit in the chair for prolonged periods of time. And the 7th and final habit is don't wait for inspiration to arrive. And my favourite story about an author who didn't wait for inspiration to arrive is about Roald Dahl. One day he found himself stuck in traffic and he thought of a breakthrough for a story he was working upon. But he didn't have a notepad or a pen and he was worried he'd forget his idea. So he got out of the car in the middle of traffic. Now I don't recommend this, but he got out of the car in the middle of traffic, walked around to the back of the car, and in the dirt he wrote an idea for the book he was working on. And that particular book became Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So there you are. They're the 7 habits that you need to cultivate and the 7 habits that highly successful writers cultivate. If you found this video post helpful, please share it, or you can click through below to read more details and more stories about each one of those habits.